Welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen, not wearing a tank top. He is Gary Sheffield Jr., and this is Yankees Unloaded. And today we are going to be trying to entertain you guys because we know this game didn't do that unless you're a Mets fan. And if you're a Mets fan, congratulations to you. I mean, I know you guys really needed this one. We had some people in the comment section that said it. So, hey, I think now they're 500. So, this is a huge step for them. As for the Yankees, it's a journey. I mean, you go through the season, you're not playing 82 games. You're playing 162 games. So, I think that's really the adjustment here is that you'll see less of this in, say, the NBA and the NHL. You will see moments where, like, I watched, like, the New Jersey Devils. You can see the hat over there. They won 13 straight. They were pretty much unstoppable. And then they went through a really big down spiral. That was 2 years ago. And, it kind of reminds me of the way, the Yankees have started off this year. They're still, and this is funny. This is the funny thing about baseball. They're still, if not the most wins in the league, they're second at this point in the league.
Yeah, so, these last two games, we actually look like the worst team in baseball, which is crazy. So there's no other way to describe it.
I saw a tweet that said it best. The Yankees can be the best team in the league, but for whatever reason, when they start slumping, they do it the worst than anybody. Mm-hmm. And it literally is not watchable. And I agree. But luckily, number 99 made it a little watchable. I think also another person that makes it a little watchable is Michael Kay. I think the Yes Broadcast Network does a great job.
Hot topic.
Yes, we're going to dive right into that because if we don't dive into it now, we're going to forget about it. So Michael Kay, for those of you who don't know, on the Michael Kay show, he is under some fire. Gary and I saw this when it first dropped earlier today. Mm-hmm. Twitter is ablaze. People are, Michael Kay calls Aaron Judge a 60-second home run, and people are like, yeah, he's got to let it breathe. He's always under fire because people, Gary, I'm going to say the honest thing here. People are jealous of him. He has the best job in the world for somebody like that. He is absolutely one of the biggest Yankee fans who ever lived. He diehard Yankee fan. And he grew up as a Yankee fan, and now he gets to call Yankees games all year long. Okay. He's got the best job that, you could ask for in that position. And I think a lot of people are jealous of that. And he's loud, he's vibrant, and, he really, his vocal inflection and everything, like he knows what he's doing. He has his home run call, see ya, it rubs people the wrong way. And Gary, yet again, people are coming after Michael Kay. But here's a little bit of a thing here. Gary and I agree with him. We understand where he's coming from. We talked about this. Gary, I'm toss it over to you. But essentially, to make a long story short, he's on the Michael Kay show. He's got two other guys there with him. Yep. And they were not having his back in this moment. But the Yes Network runs an ad before his show or when they were in the middle of a break.
Yep.
And they run an ad for, Gary Cohen, Ron Darley, and Keith Hernandez's broadcast over at SNY for the Mets, who the Yankees are playing. Totally normal. This stuff does happen. It is a little weird, but, it does happen. You have those diehard baseball fans. They're trying to, shoot it out to baseball fans, especially in New York.
Trying to grow the channel.
Exactly. But in that ad, they say, come join to essentially kind of sum it up. They call themselves the number one booth, or the best booth in baseball. So Michael Kay was kind of pissed. And he started off, he prefaced it by saying, I'm going to get in trouble here. I'm probably going to get in trouble with fans and, my bosses and other people. And he defended his booth. And I think people made this a lot about him saying he's better than everyone else. But he also took, David Cohn and Paul O'Neill with him, kind of talking about them as well. I think it was disrespectful across the board, and I think Michael Kay had every right. And, Gary, you have plenty of thoughts on this. I'll just wrap it up by saying this. Okay, this is like before our show, YouTube running an ad that is a competitive show to us and saying they're the best or something right before you watch our show.
We would not be happy about that.
No.
Not at all.
Nope.
No. So let's be clear. In my opinion, people are turning this into Michael Kay is involved in a competition between the Mets broadcast and the Yankees broadcast. And that's the way it's being received on Twitter intentionally, so people can be up in arms and then turn it into a comparison so they can get their opinions off about which broadcast they like best. That's actually what's happening in real time, Jake. But having said all this, Michael Kay is a competitor. That might sound ridiculous because he's in the booth, he's in a suit, he's relaxing, he gets food brought to him in the booth. He's having a good time, right? He's been covering the New York Yankees since 1992. He's living the dream, as one would put it. If people thought that you're going to do any job and then willingly kneel to the competition or other broadcasts in this situation and say, yeah, they're better than us, but we're pretty good too. In what situation does that really happen in life? It doesn't even happen at burger joints. You don't walk into Five Guys and they say In-N-Out's burgers are more fresh and they're better, but ours are pretty good too if you get them Cajun. They don't say that, okay? The reality is if you go into a restaurant, they're going to tell you that their shit's the best. That's how it works. And Michael Kay has every right to think that his broadcast and his buddies in there in the broadcast booth, to which, of course, we enjoy. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Everybody has their own opinions. But if you really think that Michael Kay is going to do this job for 31 years and he doesn't think that his crew's the best of all these other crews, you might as well retire now. So this is part of the reason why I told you for weeks, I love the job Michael Kay does, because when he thinks that I or anybody else is in the right, he's going to say it. He's easygoing. He's a fan. He wants to grow the game. It's the reason he does this. But when he sees something and he does not, like, he takes exception to that, he's going to say something. That's what I enjoy about Michael Kay. And to be honest with you, it's the reason why a lot of people couldn't do this job. Most people, as the voice of the Yankees, would just say, yeah, they're great, and we're great too. Come watch us. But Michael Kay's not built that way. That's not who he is. That's why I know Michael Kay's being his original self, and you have to respect that. It doesn't matter if you actually agree Michael Kay and our crew has the best group. It doesn't matter, right? Because everyone has their own opinion, and that just is what it is. But the reality is, in this situation, I'm backing Michael Kay. I just am. And this is coming from somebody, Jake, you said before this before we started this, that you really don't like SNY and their broadcast group. But I told you they're like one of my favorites. I don't watch Mets games all the time, but I will sit down. Like when I go over to my Uncle Dwight's house, he's obviously still in New York City, and we'll watch Mets games. And I'll tell him, I really like this broadcast group. But you know what? If I really thought that I was going to walk up to another professional and say, hey, what do you think of this other group? And they're just going to be like, yeah, they're just better than us, but we're good too. Stupid. And so that's really what we're doing here is we're asking Michael Kay to just say nothing. And I think his competitive spirit, like you said, made him look a little emotional. And so people kind of gravitated towards that, and they're using it for clickbait. So I think it's kind of pathetic.
Oh yeah, no, it absolutely is. I thought that was a good way to start off the show. If we ever get Michael Kay on here, I mean, he'll know that he's in kind of a good air, a good show to be on. Like we will. There's no witch hunt, So big fan of him, and I it's funny watching that. I felt everything that he was feeling at that moment, because I'm like, to your point, 31 years, you do all that. It's like, show me some damn respect. Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
And that's how he felt. And then you had, of course, the other guys. I forgot the other guy's name. But he kind of didn't support him the way they should have, in my opinion. I was a little bummed.
They also poked fun of him at the game today, to which you sent to me.
Oh, yeah.
And so essentially,
Jerry Cohen was professional about it.
Yes.
He just was talking about how he met one of the Yankees broadcasters, Emmanuel Barbari, the
young broadcaster.
Yeah, and then Ron Darling was like, "How does he feel about our show?" Like, kind of giggling.
Mhm.
And if you can't see what Michael K is doing in that moment, and you're a competitor and you're also in the booth, that's a shame on you because the fans. I'm expecting that. I'm expecting the trolls on Twitter to share that thing around and be like, "Oh, Michael K is a whiny little, Ron Darling should be better than that." And by the way, Michael K said they're great. He kept
Yes, he
saying
did.
these are great guys. They are awesome. Gary and his booth is great, but I would take our booth over his. And there's nothing wrong with him saying that. It's no different than when people asked Eli Manning and Joe Flacco if they thought that they were elite quarterbacks. What Eli's gonna be, no, I think I'm mid. Or like Joe Flacco's
Right.
gonna be like, I'm good, but there are definitely other guys that are better than me. No, it's no different.
I thought it
So
was a good opportunity for them to just diffuse the whole thing and say, you know what? Just be out front with it.
that's what I
Just
was
say, I
hoping that they
totally
would
get
do.
it.
I
Right?
think
Just say,
Gary
I get
kind
it.
of was in his own
Yeah.
way,
Hmm.
and then Ron decided to blow it up to make it something bigger.
Didn't have to
Um,
be.
yeah. So and what does that say? Michael K has always been very respectful of that booth. I mean,
Mhm.
this is not the first time he's given them props. He said, Gary's one of the best in the business at one
Yeah.
point. I remember him saying that. So yeah, I was a little disappointed to hear that. I was also disappointed to hear, not shocking though, Keith Hernandez call out Juan Soto because he didn't grow, wings and catch that fly ball that he axes was a fly ball. It was a decent drive out to right field.
Yeah. Situationally, that play, that was not an easy play.
That's
So
not a
let's
fly
be
ball, my
honest.
guy.
Yeah, and then obviously the way he described it, and he said, yeah, Yankee Stadium, where obviously it's part of the reason why the Yankees put him in right field at that stadium is that there's less ground to cover. In right field for the New York Mets at Citi Field, yeah, it's a lot of ground to cover. And to be honest with you, it's not like Juan Soto is some Gold Glover in right field. He's not. He has a really good arm. He's a guy who's relying on jumps, right, and reads. Well, this is what I'll say. I thought that the comment in saying that, I mean, he essentially said he's below average in the outfield.
Yeah.
Um,
He's a
and
liability out there. You
he is
wonder
a
why they
liability,
play
were his
him
words.
in the deepest corner outfield position in this ballpark, Yankee Stadium. Yes, but that's a fly ball. That's got to be caught. I don't know who's catching that. That was a good hit, by the way. You
Yeah,
tip
but it's
your
just an
cap
interesting
to,
thing to say in general
yeah.
because you have to remember Juan Soto, and we don't know the future, right? We don't know that Juan Soto is going to return into the pinstripes. We
That
just
is
don't have this
interesting that you
information yet.
said that. And yeah, I
Yeah,
actually
because
didn't put that together, but yeah, that is
how
very
how not?
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how not? Because if everyone's expecting Steve Cohen didn't have an opportunity to go get Shohei Ohtani, right? Ohtani said, "I'm only going to the West Coast." Long story short, he goes to the Dodgers. Yamamoto says no to the Mets. So now the next big fish is Juan Soto, clearly. So Juan Soto is more than likely going to receive a higher offer from the New York Mets than the Yankees. And I think a lot of people can come to expect this. But when you're a broadcast, your home broadcast crew, who SNY is calling the best crew in the world, I guess rightfully so for them. But to have your home broadcast crew say that about another player, could you imagine if we were talking about Yamamoto at the World Baseball Classic and Michael K's in Japan? He's flown in and he's saying, yeah, Yamamoto's stuff's just not very good.
Yeah,
How can you
it's a great
possibly
point.
expect that to land?
I
It's
love that you
stupid.
brought that up because I didn't even think about those optics. I thought it was just kind of weird, that comment. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, the optics are terrible. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Steve Cohen's like, dude, what were you doing?
Yeah,
Like,
dude, shut up.
I
Like
mean, like,
that's what I would tell him. You're supposed to be, remember, if things go, best case scenario for the New York Mets is that Juan Soto's running down fly balls in right field for them next year.
yeah,
And your broadcast crew is saying that, nonsense. Now, I don't
yeah,
expect this to happen. I expect Juan Soto to return because I know he loves playing for the Yankees. That's well documented. But you can't talk shit about your high prize free agent. That's just bad business.
yeah. Well, Keith Hernandez always has to remind you that he played baseball and he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So I wasn't surprised that it was him. I would have been surprised. Well, I was a little surprised, Darling said what he did, kind of like,
Yeah.
backhanded. But Cohen always keeps it like wicked professional, so he would never say anything like that.
What's weird is I like literally Keith Hernandez. I like the whole group. I just thought it was a weak moment. That's one thing that I try to give people the opportunity is that there are situations, even including myself, where you just make decisions and say things publicly that are they just aren't right. They
Yeah.
don't work. Right. And I thought they, as adults, should have understood what Michael Kay was saying, and they would have helped Michael Kay seem more understood. And I'm sure Michael Kay would tell you, I'm not worried about being misunderstood. I'm going to say what I want to say. I'm sure that's what he would say. But reality is they could have blown this thing over just by being a little bit more professional.
Yeah, I mean that's really it. It's funny the difference between the two. You know, like Hernandez will say things like that, weak moment talk when he probably shouldn't. And Paul O'Neill will literally be saying in the middle of him saying something good, and he feels like he's saying too much, so he'll cut back. Like he's
Yeah.
trying not to do that. It's kind of funny the dynamic. I love Paul O'Neill. I also love David Cone as well. Now, David Cone pitched obviously, and knows his stuff. And when he's talking about a pitcher and the way he was talking about Heel, like, I mean, I think it's definitely fair. There's something off with Heel. This is, once again, another start where he got blistered. And it was kind of weird because there was a rain delay and all of that. But I mean, that had nothing to do with the start coming in. The first pitch, I could tell you, Gary, the way he left that thing up there in the zone for, Lindor to just smack it. I didn't have a good feeling from that first pitch. I was like, okay, so because typically speaking, when you see Heel, you're going to have a good day with Heel pretty much out of the gate because he's already overpowering just before you blink and, all of a sudden it's 0-2 and he's about to strike out the first batter of the game. And
Yeah,
that's
he's like a
normally what he
horse at the
does.
Kentucky Derby. If he
Yeah.
comes out the gate hot, you just kind of know what to expect the rest of the way. And to be fair to Cone, when he's sitting there talking about Heel and what to expect going forward and kind of what's wrong, because we're trying to figure out what's wrong with the guy. If you notice, there's a lot of misses, inside, outside, and we used to worry about he's missing up. Well, right now he's got so much run on his changeup and his fastball that he clearly doesn't have his command. That's obviously the number one thing. This is not a stuff issue. Luis Gil's stuff is absolutely nasty. We saw his changeup still 93, 94, very similar to the numbers we've seen all year. His fastball still 98 to 100. All that's great, right? There's other pitchers who have issues with this type of thing. Not Luis Gil. Luis Gil is just nasty, ace like quality, but he's missing so far inside and outside that there's some mechanic that's changed. And you can't expect players, and they have their ebbs and flows where they miss location. 9 times out of 10, it's about mechanics. So right now, Matt Blake and Luis Gil need to get in the lab, figure out what's off, what's different, because we learned today the Mets are playing some hot baseball right now that, like you said earlier, they got up to 500. So they're actually hitting. Lindor's hitting right now. His ops is in the mid 700s, right? So Nimmo's ops is 800. So these guys are finally scoring runs. And if Luis Gil, as good as his stuff is, if he's not locating, you're hittable. In Major League Baseball, if you basically have to face a bad baseball team that's not playing well, like the Chicago White Sox, and then you might be able to just solely get away with stuff. But we've learned today and in Luis Gil's last start, stuff is not good enough to just get you through a start. You've also got to execute. And right now, I would say the most important thing, that fastball command is nowhere close. It is not close. Lindor got 2 piped fastballs today, and with a guy swinging that type of bat, it's going to be damage every time. We saw 2 extra base hits. It essentially, we knew, and you said this actually before we started the show, we knew at bat number 1, when you saw Lindor lace a ball into the gap, we said, okay, it already seemed like we were on the ropes. That's the way the game felt. So yeah, if Luis Gil, if he gets this turned around, it's going to be mechanics.
I think if you take anything good away from this, it's not that he's been figured out, because I think very often it'd be like, oh, there's not a lot of video on the guy, all that. No, I mean, I don't think he's been figured out. I think he's just not pitching well. I don't think like the things that he was doing aren't working anymore. I think currently he hasn't been able to do the things he was doing earlier in the year. Now, there's a lot of over analysis, I would say, with him because let's put it this way: he's had 2 bad starts, right? Third, like the third to last start was kind of but it
It was
wasn't a
okay.
bad start. He's had 2 bad starts in a row, and you have people. Well, the problem is you have too many of those like NFL reporters who I respect when they're talking about the NFL, but they're talking baseball. I see it all over my feed. Well, Jason La Canfora, I don't respect anything that comes out of that dude's mouth. Um,
Who?
that dude that was talking about how they need to drill Soto on purpose. He like lost
Are you
his
talking about the
job at
slide?
CBS.
That slide he made into third base?
I
You're
mean, it
talking about
was
in the Baltimore series.
yes, he's a Baltimore
Yeah, I
fan.
have.
So
You showed me that guy. I have no clue who that is, and I mean that with all due respect. I have no clue.
yeah, well, he was a CBS reporter and now he's not for obvious reasons. But that
Okay,
Louis
he
Heel
could be
thing
Neil
is
Armstrong.
over.
I had no idea who he was.
That Louis Heel thing is over. He tweets, "Poor kid, never able to pitch even 100 inning any season in the minors, getting destroyed last 2 times out, already hitting the wall." It's not just him saying that. And then I think, and I'm like, you know what? These guys are getting regurgitated onto everyone's feed, and people are like, "Oh, I'm going to be smart today." And I don't think my followers follow that guy. So I'm going to start regurgitating what he's saying. And then you all sound like freaking dweebs. So the reality of
It's
the
the hive mind.
situation, the hive mind at its finest. The the freaking symbiote in Venom would be so proud. Look, here's the deal. It is way too early to start throwing out innings and oh, he's still got a lot of velocity. He's got great stuff. It's the location with him. It was the location with Garrett Cole. Okay. Location, location, location. I said it when we talked about Cole. That's been the biggest issue in this series. That's been the biggest issue for a little bit now. And I also think, once again, this goes back to if it's not broke, don't fix it. So when they brought back Cole again, it threw off everything because now you have Heel taking an extra day and Rodon taking an extra day. And notice right after that, now these guys are struggling to find it. And
Everyone. It's literally every single guy, except for you can argue Nestor Cortez.
well,
I think
Stroman and Nestor have been great,
Stroman and Nestor have been
but
great.
that's it.
That is it. There is not one other arm in this rotation that's been exceptional or even average. Everyone else is just getting shelled.
I mean,
And
even the
so,
bullpen hasn't been great. We thought
right.
Bickford came in and he was pitching well. He gave up
Yeah.
3 or 4 the other night. Look, this is important because we talk. I think the pretty much the bullpen's always under fire. No matter how well you're doing or whatever, bullpen will get under fire because you have the casual fan that'll see him give up one thing, right? And it's like, oh, whatever, it's all the bullpen's fault. The hitting has been under fire. We'll talk about the lineup in a little bit, like real quick. But to me, it's fair to say the rotation's been compromised. And I think a lot of that was because they rushed Garrett Cole back. And I've seen the comment section, well, who do you bring in? Petit's hurt, and then you have Clark Schmidt, Clark Schmidt is hurt. Well, they brought in Yoendris Gomez, who's capable of pitching at least 5 innings in the majors. You know how I know that? Because he pitched 5 innings in the majors when they brought him up. He pitched 5 innings out of the bullpen. So he could be the opener at the very least. You don't have to have a legit starter, but if you had an opener that could give you 5, which is basically a starter at that point, and him, we talk about it all the time. When are we going to see Clayton Beater? This guy pitched, the last 3 pitches of the game against the Astros to start the season. Then we never saw him again. Dude just doesn't even exist. He's a myth. But actually, if you're doing the research and everything, in AAA, he's pitching well, he's pitching efficiently, and he's being built up as a starter. Well, guess what? You know who else is getting built up as a starter? JT Brubaker. So you have him. And Brubaker's not ready, and I'm aware of that. He's in his rehab assignment. But doesn't that tell you something? Doesn't that tell you something that they're trying to build him up? They have Gomez pitching 5 innings out of the bullpen, and they're building up Clayton Beater as a starter. They definitely have these guys. They have enough here where they don't have to rush Cole. And I think they're really just not putting their foot down. It's not crippling. Like people are like, this is the end of the season. Stop being ridiculous. Please, for the love of God.
That's
Does
just,
not
I
look
mean,
good
that's
on
just the
you.
nature of
Yeah. It does not
that's
look
the
good on
nature
you.
of Yankees social media.
It's
That's just
true.
how it's going to be. It's never going to change because
No.
you do have to remember, let's keep this in mind. Yankees Twitter, which is absolutely useless, it is
High
literally
school
only,
hallway.
and I mean this with all due respect, it is only emotional 21 and belows. That is it. Okay. Because I promise you, when I go to Yankee Stadium and I see rational, normal people, and they'll come up to me and say, "Hey, Gary, they'll talk about Twitter and the fact that we've talked sports before." Because frankly, I talk to a lot of people on there, and they'll say, "Yeah, I never really comment back on anything. I'm just kind of I like to
Lurker.
watch. I'm a lurker. I just like to
Yeah.
watch." And those are the normal people. But all the people that you always see habitually in your comment section who are like not even anybody, they don't have a big show, they don't have anything. They're just like Twitter users that you recognize over the years. Those people just live on Twitter and they have the dumbest takes. They're just the most irrational. We lose 2 games and now we're the worst baseball team you've ever seen in your life. And like the worst team in the league. Like Brian Cashman needs to make 4 trades and he needs to trade away all these guys, right? But then if we had won these 2 games in New York, it would be like, oh, now we're up 3.5 games on Baltimore and we're chirping Baltimore like we're beating our chest. No, there's somewhere in the middle is where our psyche needs to be. And that's essentially what we're saying on this show is that the highs don't need to be, they can be high, but the lows don't need to be as low to the ocean floor. And so we're trying to find a solid baseline on this show of normalcy. And of course, our guests that we eventually bring on this show will thank us for it because we're not just going to bring them on and just be like, it's all hell. What do we do? Well, yeah, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, like while the house is on fire, can you help me put out this fire? Well, you didn't try and put it out yourself? No,
Could you
no.
imagine we bring in Michael K and we're like, this is the shit show. What do we do?
Yeah,
We just lose our
he'd
mind.
be like,
He'd be like, I'm
I'm
never
out.
coming on that show again.
He'd walk out. He'd be like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, also keep in mind when we're negative, we always have a solution. We bring up solutions. If you're going to have a problem with something that's happening, you have to have a solution. You can't just sit there and be like, they suck. This is terrible. This is trash. Oh my God. And then have no solution. The other day, I have to give somebody credit because just a random Twitter user, like you're saying, they attempted to have a solution. They suggested to call up Trace Sweeney, who is no longer a Yankee, has not been a Yankee
No
for
way.
a year now. Yep. They said, I think we need to call up Trace Sweeney and play him at third. And I was like,
it's a good idea.
A for effort, man. we're getting there. Like the bar has been, risen. Now, I mean, before they'd probably say, I don't know, Ronald Torreyes. So now we're at least up to Trey Sweeney. Maybe we'll get there to the point where we're not, operating at a fax machine pace. But
well, since we're saying anybody can come up and they're not even in the Yankees organization, I think Willie Nelson should be our starting second baseman. So there you go. But speaking of solutions, I think that this is a good bridge to our lineup. A question that clearly a lot of people have: what to do with Ben Rice. Verdugo had 2 hits today, which was a nice, pleasant surprise because he was basically a huge skid mark in our lineup. But let's be clear. The Yankees have some injuries. They're well documented. The absence of Giancarlo Stanton, I think, is much larger than what people are anticipating that ever to be. And of course, the timing, Jake, of Stanton getting hurt just after Dominguez getting hurt, because this would have been a prime opportunity. Really, you can make the argument that based on this skid that we were watching in Verdugo, the Yankees actually had an opportunity to even call up Dominguez and put him in left field. But I'll say this. Right now, I don't really know where the Yankees can go. I think that there's a lot of decisions that can be made to help this team in the infield. And then before I kick it off to you, but as far as the outfield goes, I'm not really that confident in who else the Yankees got in terms of outfield and DH, because frankly, I just think you have to stick with Verdugo. Don't freak out about him. There's just going to be times where he's beating balls into the ground, but you have to remember who he was 3 weeks ago, right? Who he
Yeah.
was a month and a half ago. He's the type of guy where he can be frustrating, but you have to remember what we were asking for at the beginning of the year. We wanted more contact. We wanted more guys who can make quality outs. And more times than not, he's the player we were after. Right now, it's horrible to watch. It is ground ball after ground ball. It looks like he's trying to ground into double plays. But like I said, today was a better day. And hopefully we see a really baseline Verdugo.
Yeah, I mean, he had 2 hits in this game. If I've learned anything covering, the Yankees like this, the way we have, I've learned how quick this game goes, how quick a week goes, how quick a month goes. It was just the other day, it feels like Verdugo was killing it. And now, he's batting what, 4 of his last 30 or something like that. I mean,
His ops is league average. He's at 705, which
it's
league
crazy.
average is 700. It's insane.
It's absolutely crazy. And that's just the nature of the game. That's what happens when you play every day, just about. So, yeah, I mean, just to talk about this lineup real quick. I mean, Volpe, I'm not going to get on. Okay. He's going to have his games where he goes 0 for 5, has a walk. He's going to have his games where he goes 2 for 4, and he's a huge contributor. He's so good defensively, and his at-bats don't make me want to throw up. So I'm okay with him. Plus, he's hitting 266.
He actually reminds me a lot of, who he reminds me of is Dansby Swanson. And I know that people
That's
have higher hopes for Anthony Volpe than Swanson, but Swanson he's had a really nice career in this league, and there's a reason he got all that money. So yeah,
he doesn't remind me of anybody in particular. That's the weird thing.
He's arguably one of the best shortstop. Gunnar Henderson is another guy defensively that's just spectacular at shortstop. Yeah. But Volpe can be a contributor, kind of the whole point you're bringing up right now, without hitting. And that's something it's always beneficial, because that's something we haven't been able to say at that position for a bit.
No, and he's gotten better and better. He feels like he gets better each game defensively. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Soto is still Soto, right? I mean, he walked twice. Again, that was a symptom of the fact that you got JD Davis. I think really the start of the game, they're like, JD Davis is cleaning up. Okay, we're walking Soto and Judge. Judge, he hits his 30th home run. Judge is insane. He's 13 home runs away from hitting 300 for his career. And I just always think, like, if Judge, started when like A-Rod started, I mean, what are we talking about right now? Maybe it's worse. Maybe he doesn't pan out. We have no idea. That's kind of the beauty of it. But Aaron Judge, when he is healthy, is the most consistent player in the league. I mean, it is insane. I mean, he is now one of, and I forget the exact stat. Well, no, I know the stat. I forget the exact players. I think it was Mark McGwire. I just saw it. Okay, here it is. Brian Hoke. Ready? Aaron Judge is the 3rd player in MLB history to hit 30 homers prior to an All-Star break, right? 3 times in his career. The others are Mark McGwire, Ken Griffey Jr. That's it. That is consistency. Good. Okay.
How did Bonds get to 73 bombs without hitting 30? How?
So he hit 30 the year he hit the 73. He's done it 3 times. So Judge has done it 3 times, getting to 30.
That is so stupid. How good you have to be to hit 73 bombs. They weren't even throwing him strikes, and it's just so crazy. It really is so insane. But as far as Aaron Judge, I do think even back to his 2017 season, Aaron Judge was seen as a player who, if he stays healthy, he's better than all of us. And I think that was established early on in his career. I don't even really think that we had to travel into the 2020s to even make this type of prediction, because health was always the problem for Aaron Judge. And there were a lot of people who said the Yankees would be fools investing into this player and making him a cornerstone, because he's never going to stay on the field. Because I guess you can say people had an accurate assessment of him, that he was getting hurt a lot, right? It was almost like kind of like Giancarlo Stanton, where it's always something, right? It's a lat, it's a toe, it's something, it's a shoulder. But I will say this, Aaron Judge has done a really good job managing his body and actually playing through things, because we do know he hasn't been healthy these past year and a half or so. So, but he's found a way to get on the field and produce. He has done absolutely nothing but produce for this team. And finally, we actually have a pairing to put behind him and not
Yeah.
like Rizzo. Because, I mean, remember we used to put like Rizzo behind Aaron Judge, and it was just so silly.
It really is. I love him and Soto together. JD Davis, I thought, had two really good plate appearances, forcing 2 walks, understanding the assignment, if you will, in the first inning, unlike Glaber. Verdugo had 2 hits. LeMahieu had a really nice hit. Now, I'm not going crazy. The broadcast acted like he's about to figure something out.
Who?
I forget who. I think it might have been Cone or it was Paul O'Neill, but one of them
Wait, who's
said
going to figure something out?
DJ LeMahieu. Because their rationale was that his hardest hit of the year came yesterday, and then he had that following it up. I'm just a realist here, not trying to be negative at all. I like LeMahieu. I do. I appreciate his contributions to the Yankees, but we have to be honest with ourselves. He is not the same hitter. There's no magical thing happening. People say, well, he hit really well at the end of last year. He didn't hit really well at the end of last year. He hit kind of okay at the end of last year.
He was serviceable for his contract.
Exactly.
It was just,
but like
okay, we're not getting
240
nothing.
or whatever is not really well. And if that's really well, then you've lowered the expectations beyond what one should lower them. Trevino, by the way, no hits yet again. Another pinch hit opportunity for Austin Wells. Trevino is now batting 247. He has fallen off a little bit. He had a few really good stops behind the plate. I do have to give him credit for that because, man, early on, heel was wild. That could have been bad. They didn't even give up a run the first inning because of those stops. Got to give him credit there. But Trevino's not doing enough with his bat, in my opinion. And he's not that much better with his glove than Austin Wells, and definitely not a better thrower of the baseball, in the run game like Austin Wells to justify being an everyday starter at this point. So I still have pushback against that. Ben Rice today, this was just not his best day, and that's okay. Still a rookie, very, very, very green rookie, guy that literally just got called up, only spent 11 games in AAA, but still, while it wasn't his best day, I didn't see any glaring concerns. I thought his at bats still looked fine. They weren't like, how they've looked recently, but it's not like he looked like he was showing, okay, this is a weakness. You pitch him here, he's not going to do anything. And then can we just keep Oswaldo Cabrera in the lineup? I mean, for the love of God, I really feel like he just shows that he's not a streaky player. He's a guy that really needs to be in a rhythm. It's that simple. Okay.
Yeah, he benefits from opportunity for sure. I don't want to compare him to Tom Brady, but how good would Tom Brady have ever been in 01 if he's just coming out for, a few snaps in the second half and then you pull him off the field? Not very.
He's not a pinch hit type of guy. They can't just throw him in there and expect he's going to do well. He needs to keep playing.
Right. And if Giancarlo Stanton also, let's just use him as a perfect example. Giancarlo is a veteran in this league. He's been here for a while. He's never done anything off the bench for the Yankees.
No.
Long term, he's been terrible. So it goes to show you rhythm is a thing in this sport. It's not all analytics. There are feelings and emotions and all types of stuff being believed in that goes into playing well. It's not just plugging guys in and playing. It's not that simple. But can I say this about DJ LeMahieu? Because you said something that it wasn't something you said that drove me up a wall, but something I guess the broadcast said, which was that DJ LeMahieu hit his hardest ball of the year in today's game. Let me say something about
yesterday's game.
Yesterday's game, excuse me. When you're hitting 178, your ops is 452. Essentially what they're saying, that's like getting a 25% on 4 straight exams in school. And then all of a sudden you show up home and your mom's like, you better get your grades up. You show her your 5th exam and your exam says you got a 54. And you go, it's the best grade I got all year. Well, it's still horseshit. It's not good. So no one should be happy that it's better than shitty. It's not good. And definitely, it's absolutely not good enough to pencil him in every day at third base. No. There's no reason. DJ LeMahieu has done absolutely nothing of recent where you'd say, yes, that's that player right there. I need this other guy who's been a contributor in Cabrera. He's streaky. You can absolutely agree to that. Defensively, has his ups and downs. That guy, take him off the field. We need this other guy. There's no way. You cannot possibly justify to me that DJ LeMahieu is good enough at third base to warrant having a black hole in the lineup. There's no way. So that's where I'm at right now. I think DJ LeMahieu, full stop, is a black hole. And that's something that the New York Yankees cannot afford to have. It's just that simple. You cannot have Giancarlo Stanton hurt, right? You have Juan Soto and Judge. They're trying to pitch around those guys. JD Davis is sitting in the 4 spot. And you mean to tell me after JD Davis, we're going to slide it over? Oh, pass the baton. JD Davis had really good at bats. He drew 2 walks. Oh, for who to set up? Oh, DJ LeMahieu. That's not a threatening situation in any way. And these teams know this. So they're going to continue to attack and pitch around JD Davis and all these other guys that are comparable in the lineup. And they're going to make the bottom of our lineup essentially, make them pay. And so far they haven't. And when our starting rotation is, they're kind of up in sorts right now. They're trying to figure out their stuff. Well, if you go give up 3 or 4 runs, 4 or 5 runs, this Yankees lineup right now is susceptible to a losing streak. And frankly, that's what we're a part of right now.
Yeah. Well, they're going to have to figure it out because they're going back to the Rogers Center in Toronto. And that is not a place they had a lot of success. If you remember, funny enough, that was right around the time they lost that really close game. They should have won to the Guardians. Still bothers me. I think about that game. And they just really, Volpe started unraveling. This was the first showing that the Yankees weren't invincible. This was the first showing when they played against, the Blue Jays. So look, Barrios is on the mound. Very good pitcher. Gives up the long ball, though. He's given up 17 home runs this year. Rodon also gives up the long ball. If you are betting on the over for this game, I think you're a smart man because I think this is going over whatever that is. You got 2 guys that give up a lot of home runs.
It's funny because every time I see these guys get shelled, I feel like they pitch every other day. I feel like I just saw Rodon. I swear to you.
Yeah. I mean, it really do be like that sometimes, but no, I think the Yankees win tomorrow. They've lost 3 straight. I really think they get back on the high side there. Now, tomorrow, I want to see Austin Wells in the lineup. I want to see them commit to him. I want to see JD Davis at third. I want to see Rice at first. I want to actually keep Cabrera at second because I don't think Glaber's going to be around much longer. And I think at second, instead of trying to make LeMahieu a thing, although I think I'd rather have him at second, but defense isn't the issue with LeMahieu. The hitting is the issue with LeMahieu. So I would rather see, hey, can we make this JD Davis thing work at third for the time being until Birdie comes back? Then you have John Birdie at third, and you got Cabrera at second. Now you have some athleticism there. You have some contact. You actually have some excitement. I think people would like that. Of course, Rice at first and then Wells at catcher. Then your outfield is your outfield. So I don't think it's as simple as just you flick the finger and everything's fixed. But I think making a decision like that would be the move right now because you have to do something. And the bottom line is Cabrera and Wells are very similar. They're rhythm guys. They need to play every day. Wells, when he's hitting well, or the best that he's hit this year, he's played 3 or 4 times in a row. And don't forget, they started off the year with Wells as the starter, and they moved to Trevino. I don't understand this everyday Trevino thing. Who also, by the way, the Yankees hit the ball hard on the ground, which was brought up by Yes, they do. And they don't have a lot of athleticism. So when they hit the ball hard on the ground and it's played, easy double play. They grounded into 3 today, okay? So you can say, oh, it's not as big of a number as I thought I saw on TV. That's still a big number, man. It's not easy to turn a double play in the major leagues. Now,
yeah, we're rolling into double plays left and right.
Verdugo had 2, and he's not even a bad athlete. He had 2. Trevino had one. Trevino's not beating out any double play, period. Wells might be able to beat one out. But yeah, I guess to wrap this thing up, we had our big mic drop episode yesterday where we really called out Glaber. We called out LeMahieu. Instead of just sounding like a broken record, let's try something new. Let's try Cabrera at second, keep having him play second, keep Torres on the bench. And let's see if Davis can actually play third. Because if he's not half bad, I'm fine with that. Wells in at catcher, and hell, I don't mind Trevino as the DH at that point. I'd rather have Trevino in there over, LeMahieu. At the same time, I think there are guys in the minors that they should consider calling up. And if they had to, say they move Cabrera to third, I wouldn't mind them calling up Jeter Downs to play second. He's actually been hitting well in AAA. I like him. I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
Okay. Well, I mean, everyone's saying that Trevino he's in the lineup for framing and mainly his offense because they're saying that he's a significant upgrade offensively. Well, if that's the case, throw him at DH. And we're not talking about long term. That's until, some guys are healthy or you have the balls to call someone up. And until that, put guys who are hitting or have the capability to hit in the lineup. Take the guys without the ability to hit, run, or field the ball. And Gleyber Torres is doing none of the three. Take them out. And that's that simple. Of course, Aaron Boone said that situation really had nothing to do with why he pulled him out the game. Again, I don't get having said that. That was ridiculous. Absolutely buffoonery to even suggest that him walking down the first base line doesn't call for him being pulled out of the game and sitting multiple games in a row. Because frankly, if we see Gleyber Torres tomorrow and he's hitting anywhere near the middle of the lineup, I mean, I don't know what to tell guys, right? We're just going to be onlookers, root for this team. We'll always do that. We're never rooting against this team. No. But I'll tell you, they need to start making decisions that are about winning and not about feelings and I guess preconceived notions of who they think these players are. It's about what you are outputting. And if you're not outputting enough to be in this lineup, you should be out of it.
And I'm not against, putting Grisham in center and just DHing Judge and keeping him healthy.
Yeah.
I'm
not opposed to it.
Definitely not against using that. I'm not like a diehard Grisham fan, but I think DH is actually beneficial for Judge. I will say that. But that's going to do it. We appreciate you guys a little bit longer than maybe we anticipated, but we always have fun doing this. It always is. But we appreciate it. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Be sure to follow us on all social media at JK Bogan, at Gary Sheffield Jr., and at Yankees Unloaded. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Later, folks.
And like this video.